the how to hold the sacrum in anatomical position. First, place the pelvic surface of the sacrum downward and forward. So here you can see, just place the pelvic surface of sacrum downward and forward. And the upper surface of body of first sacral vertebra inclined forward at an angle of 30 degree. So here you can see the inclination of 30 degree. The upper end of the sacral canal should be placed nearly upward. Here you can see this upper end of the sacral canal is the upward directed. So this is an anatomical position of the sacrum. Now relations and the muscle attachments on the sacrum. The attachment on the pelvic surface of the sacrum. The anterior and posterior edges of the first sacral vertebrate body gives attachment to the lowest fiber of the anterior and posterior longitudinal ligament. So here will the anterior longitudinal ligament, and on the posterior edge there will be posterior longitudinal ligament. Lamina of the first sacral vertebra gives attachment to the lowest pair of the ligamentum flava. So here will be the attachment of the ligamentum flava. A rough part on the ala of the sacrum gives attachment to the iliacus muscle. Iliacus muscle you have studied in the lower limb, takes its origin mainly from the iliac fossa and distal attachment on the lesser trochanter of the femur. The lateral mass of the middle three faces, that means second, third and fourth sacral vertebrae, and this costal bar, this bony bar between the pelvic foramina, gives origin to the piriformis muscle. So piriformis muscle you have studied in the gluteal region. So taking origin from pelvic surface of the sacrum as a E-shaped and distal attachment or insertion on the greater trochanter of the femur. Inferior laterally, the part of lateral mass corresponding to the fifth sacral vertebra gives origin to the coccygeus muscle along with the coccyx. So coccygeus muscle taking origin from the sacrum and coccyx. Coccygeus muscle is a part of levator ani muscle, forms the pelvic diaphragm and supports the pelvic viscera. The smooth path of the ala of sacrum is related to some structures from medial to lateral side. These structures are entering into the pelvic cavity from the abdomen. So most medial is a sympathetic chain, then lumbosacral trunk, iliolumbar artery from the posterior division of the internal iliac artery, obturator nerve from the lumbar plexus. You can remember these structures by a mnemonic OILS, where O stands for obturator nerve, I for iliolumbar artery, L for lumbosacral trunk and S for sympathetic chain. Median sacral artery is also related in the midline of the pelvic surface. Median sacral artery is a dorsal branch of the abdominal aorta. The body of first 2.5 pieces is also related to peritoneum and rectum. These are pelvic sacral foramina. On the medial margin of pelvic sacral foramina, you can also see the sympathetic chain is also related. This pelvic sacral foramina transmit ventral rami of the sacral spinal nerves. Here you can see this is the sacral plexus. Now the dorsal surface of the sacrum. Dorsal surface of the sacrum gives origin to erector spinae muscle along a U-shaped line passing over the spinous and transverse tubercles. So line on the median sacral crest and on the lateral sacral crest. This U-shaped line gives origin to the erector spinae muscle. Erector spinae muscle is a set of muscle of back, takes origin from the sacrum, iliac crest, spinous processes of lumbar vertebrae and thoracic 11 and 12 vertebrae. And its origin is on the angle of lower 10 ribs and spinous and transverse processes of thoracic vertebrae. So I am repeating again. This U-shaped line over the lateral sacral crest and median sacral crest gives origin to the erector spinae muscle, which is a set of muscles of back, takes origin from sacrum, iliac crest, spinous process of lumbar vertebrae and thoracic 11 and 12 vertebrae. And its insertion is on the angle of lower 10 ribs, spinous and transverse tubercle processes of the thoracic vertebrae. The area in between this U-shaped line gives origin to the multifidus muscle. Multifidus muscle is a muscle of back again, takes origin from posterior surface of sacrum or dorsal surface of sacrum, posterior superior iliac spine, which you have seen on the hip bone, mammillary tubercle on the lumbar vertebra and transverse process of the thoracic vertebrae, and its insertion on the spinous processes of vertebrae 2 and 4 bones above the origin. So again I am repeating, multifidus muscle takes origin from posterior surface or dorsal surface of sacrum, posterior superior iliac spine, mammillary tubercle of lumbar vertebrae and transverse processes of thoracic and cervical vertebrae, and its insertion on the spinous processes of vertebrae above 2 and 4 bones. Here you can also see the dorsal ramus coming out by the dorsal sacral foramina. On the inferior laterally, this dorsal surface also gives origin to the gluteus maximus muscles. Gluteus maximus muscle, so you have studied in the gluteal region, taking origin from the mainly from the hip bone ilium and also from the sacrum and coccyx, and insertion on the gluteal tuberosity and the iliotibial tract, which you have already seen in the lower limb. Here you can see the sacral hiatus, and through which the fifth sacral nerve is coming out, and the first coccygeal nerve and the filum terminale. So this is about the dorsal surface of the sacrum. The lateral surface. The auricular surface over here is covered by the hyaline cartilage and formed entirely by the costal element. This auricular surface articulates with the auricular surface of ilium and form the sacroiliac joint. The rough area behind the auricular surface shows 2 or 3 marked depressions for the attachment of strong interosseous ligament, which is a massive and very strong ligament and is the chief bond of union between the sacrum and ilium. So here is the interosseous sacroiliac ligament. This interosseous sacroiliac ligament is covered by a dorsal or posterior sacroiliac ligament posteriorly. So here is the posterior sacroiliac ligament. This one is the interosseous sacroiliac ligament, and this is the sacroiliac joint. The narrow lower part gives origin to the sacrospinous ligament anteriorly. Here you can see sacrospinous ligament, which is a thin triangular ligament and which separates the greater sciatic foramina from the lesser sciatic foramina. Its base is attached on the sacrum and the tip or apex is attached on the ischial spine. Another ligament you can see on the narrow lower part of the sacrum is the sacrotuberous ligament. Sacrotuberous ligament is a long and a strong band ligament which extends from the sacrum to the ischial tuberosity. So from anterior to posteriorly, we can say most anterior is the origin of the coccygeus muscle, then sacrospinous ligament, then sacrotuberous ligament, and most posteriorly is the gluteus maximus. So gluteus maximus is also taking origin from the posterior dorsal surface of the sacrum, and part of it also taking origin from the lateral surface. Now the joints formed by the sacrum. The body of the first sacral vertebra unite with the fifth lumbar vertebra and forms the lumbosacral joint, which is a secondary cartilaginous joint. The auricular surface of the sacrum is articulates with the auricular surface of ilium and forms the sacroiliac joint, which is the plain synovial joint. And between the sacrum and coccyx, there is a sacrococcygeal joint, which is again a secondary cartilaginous joint. So these are the joints of the sacrum. Now the ossification. Each sacral vertebra ossifies as a typical vertebrae, and they are connected to each other by a cartilage. Up to the age of 20 years. After that, these 5 sacral vertebrae fused, and their line of fusion is represented by the transverse ridges on the pelvic surface. Here you can also see the incomplete fusion of the first and the second sacral vertebra. So the development of the vertebra. The vertebra consists of a body and a neural arch, which contains costal element and transverse element. In the cervical vertebrae, the costal element is represented by the anterior root, anterior tubercle, costotransverse var, and the posterior tubercle. So this entire purple part is the costal element, and this is the transverse process or transverse element. But in thoracic vertebrae, these costal elements elongates and detaches from the transverse process and forms the ribs. So ribs are the detached costal elements in the thoracic vertebrae. In the lumbar vertebrae, the costal element is over here and transverse process is represented by the mammillary tubercle. So here we say the transverse process is here. The true transfer process is the mammillary tubercle. This is the costal element, purple color. But in the sacrum, the lateral mass of the sacrum has an equal contribution from the costal element and the transfer process. So these lateral mass of the sacrum is massive. Now differences between the male and female sacrum. The relationship of the length and breadth of the sacrum can be expressed by a parameter known as the sacral index. Sacral index is the breadth across the base divided by the length from the promontory to the apex into 100. This sacral index is 105 in male and 115 in female. That means the male sacrum is elongated and narrow than the female sacrum. The proportion of diameter of body and width of the ala also differ. In male, the diameter of the body is more than the diameter of the ala. So here you can see the body has more diameter than the ala of the sacrum. But in female, the breadth of the body of the sacrum is almost equal to the diameter of the ala of the sacrum. Now differences between the male and female sacrum are also tabulated over here. The male sacrum is long and narrow, the female is short and wide. The male sacrum is uniformly curved and female sacrum is less curved, and curvature is most prominent between the first and second segments and third and fifth segments, and which intervening flattened region. The sacroiliac joint permits limited movement in the male, gliding movement. The sacroiliac joint permits rotatory movement during pregnancy due to relaxation of pelvic ligaments in female. The auricular surface is large and less oblique in female, and auricular surface is laterally smaller and more oblique in female. Now the applied aspect. So first is the spondylosis and spondylolisthesis. So in the normal condition, the inferior articular processes of the fifth lumbar vertebra lie behind the superior articular processes of the first sacral vertebra. And prevents the forward tilting of the fifth lumbar vertebra. But sometimes during the fracture or defect in the mode of ossification of the vertebra, the inferior articular process, spinous process, and lamina of the fifth lumbar vertebra are separated from the rest of the vertebra, and this condition is known as a spondylosis. So in spondylosis, there is no forward slipping of the lumbar 5 vertebra. When there is a forward slipping of the 5th lumbar vertebra over the sacrum, then this condition is known as a spondylolisthesis. Next is the sacralization of the 5th lumbar vertebra. Sometimes the 5th lumbar vertebra or its transfer processes fused on one or both sides with the sacrum. So here you can see there is a one side fusion of the transfer processes of 5th lumbar vertebra with the sacrum, and this condition is known as sacralization of the 5th lumbar vertebra. That leads to the compression of 5th lumbar nerve and compression like symptoms. Next is the lumbarization of first sacral vertebra. Sometimes the first sacral vertebra, instead of fusing with the other sacral vertebra, fuse with the lumbar vertebra, and that condition is known as a lumbarization of first sacral vertebra. That again leads to compression of the 5th lumbar nerve and the compression like symptoms. Next is the caudal epidural block. The caudal epidural block is a commonly used technique for injecting anesthetic agents for surgeries and for giving analgesic to relieve chronic pain. It is performed by inserting a needle through the sacral hiatus and to enter the epidural space. This is all about the applied aspect of the sacrum. Thank you so much for listening.